Hello world, it's Vagabond and welcome to Kaliningrad, Russia's most isolated, westernmost and probably one of the most strategically important region. If you look on the map, you'll see that Kaliningrad Oblast does not have land access to the rest of the territory of Russia. So geographically, Kaliningrad is closer to any European country than to the rest of the territory of Russia. For example, it is 1 hour drive from here to Polish border, 1 hour drive to Lithuanian border. In 1946, having won the Second World War, Joseph Stalin, the ruler of the USSR, just decided that he needed some more seaports on Baltic Sea, and that's how he kind of annexed the territory, but at the same time it was finally recognized by the rest of the world. Before becoming a part of Russia, of USSR, it was the territory of Germany. The old name of Kaliningrad was KINENSBERG, and in 1946, after the attachment of this region to the territory of the USSR, it was named after Mikhail Kalinin, Soviet revolutionary that once was the head of Russia Socialist Republic, which was a state of USSR, which is effectively current Russia. It's actually a very interesting region because it's located literally in Europe. It's surrounded by Europe, surrounded by NATO. So it is not a secret that Kaliningrad was severely damaged during the Second World War. It was bombed, it was shelled by artillery, and therefore when the war ended there was a strong need in reconstruction of the city, and as soon as it was owned by Soviets, they just constructed these kind of simple blocks of flats, and that's why the general appearance of the city does not really differ from the rest of Russia. But some of the historical sites have been preserved in Kaliningrad region, like this gate of former Kaliningrad fortress. I would say that the sites that were preserved can be divided into two categories. The ones that were preserved just by chance, so they were not bombed, they were not damaged during the war. And the second category is the sites that were restored intentionally. There is still a lot of historical architecture in some of the buildings that existed here even before the war. They're still inhabited, but currently they coexist with this newly built stuff and some common blocks. So first thing that does not allow me to say that we are like in the very Europe are sidewalks. To be precise, their condition. Like there is a lot of holes, it's not really maintained, and it's easy to step in this hole at night because the street is barely illuminated, only the left side of the street. So there is quite a lot to do for the development of this area. Another historical site in the center of Kaliningrad, likely that these are also gates to Kaliningrad fortress, and these are the surrounds of this territory. We can even see some old pavement. It was paved by stones, and then they put the layer of asphalt on it, but asphalt destroyed, unlike stones. If you think that people around on the streets are German, then you're likely to be wrong, because Germans were deported from Königsberg within a couple of years after it was attached to Soviet Union. Probably Soviet administration was worried about the fact that Germans could organize revolution or kind of the rebellion and stay against Soviet power. So they not only deported people, they also tried to get rid of some, like let's say, German names of settlements, of places. They renamed it on some communist or Russian manner. There is a lot of offices that issue Schengen visa in Kaliningrad. For example, this one issues Lithuanian visa because Kaliningrad borders Lithuania, and before the war in Ukraine started, a lot of people just went to Lithuania for shopping. Lithuanians at the same time came to Russia for the same purpose. So it was kind of a mutual exchange of potential customers, which was beneficial both for nearby countries and for Russia as well, those who live in this region. People living in border regions were able to visit Europe more often for educational, business or tourist purposes. For example, this is the next building to the one that issued visas, and it says like go to Europe for work. Like this company provided the whole opportunities to get the job in Europe. There is a piece of tram track that has been preserved, so this line does not really exist anymore, but there is still some tram service in Kaliningrad. And also look at the gauge, it's narrow gauge tram. This lovely place is called Lithuanian Creek. It was a moat, M-O-A-T, of Kaliningrad fortress. So it's a part of the fortress, a part of the fortification that split the fortress with the rest of the territory around. There is also an interesting system of gateways on this Lithuanian Creek. This is one of the gateway. You see, water there is higher than here. I've just discovered that massive wall on the left of the creek is a wall of a bastion, a part of Kaliningrad fortification system that was constructed in the very middle of 19th century. And there is its name probably, Bastion Grolman. What bastion is like a defensive wall of a fortress. So this is the first part of the fortress that experienced an assault. So I thought that it would be too easy to just walk around the bridge, so I decided to literally get across it, following this massive pipe for the water of this creek. So when level of water increases, it starts flowing straight here. Rosgarten Gate, one of the 8 surviving gates of the city of Kaliningrad, former KINENSBERG, also built in 19th century. I also noticed that there is a lot of German Mercedeses on the streets of Kaliningrad. The majority of them are age-old, but they still operate on city routes. But some buses are Russian, so there is a gradual replacement of all German stuff going on, but still some interesting examples can be found. I also like the way they paved bus stop. Its pavement is different from the one on the main road. It's paved by stone. There is Kaliningrad tram, Czech Tatra, with the gauge of 1000 millimeters. There are also 2 lakes in Kaliningrad, upper and lower one. There is the panorama on upper lake with pedestrian zone around. Do like the view from here, the embankment. There is a very interesting and very tiny monument in Kaliningrad. There is the Emperor Museum, and on the entrance to this museum is such a tiny figurine which is called Hamlin. Hamlin is a local name of Domovoi, a character of Slavic mythology, which is kind of the spirit that lives at people's home and it's responsible for the peace inside. Do you notice that the number of trees in Kaliningrad are covered with this yellow tape? This tape was designed to deal with chestnut moth. Look, all of these trees are chestnuts and they are hit by moth that eats it somehow. So to deal with it, local authorities decided to somehow save trees by rolling this tape around them, so it's kinda sticky. Kaliningrad is actually a sprawling city. Its population is 500,000 people and it's gradually increasing, unlike many regions of Russia. So even in 2021, when the majority of Russian cities experienced decrease in population, Kaliningrad, on the other hand, experienced its increase. People from different regions of Russia, particularly from some remote ones in Siberia, maybe some northern territories, come here. Well, obviously a lot of them went here with the purpose of being able to travel to Europe because it's very close to here, and also having local registration is likely to have an opportunity to easier issue Schengen visas. But who knew what's gonna happen in 2022? Now it doesn't make any sense because Europe is closed, I mean nearby Europe for Kaliningradians. But it's still possible to get both to Poland and Lithuania from here being Russian citizens if you have a residence permit in one of the European Union countries. In this case, Poland, Lithuania and some other countries, they allow the citizens of Russia to enter. Some more gates of the same architecture and some more figurines of Hamlins. There is actually a family of them in the city. They appeared just 5 years ago, so it was the startup of local artists and it turned out to be a very successful startup. So they placed these kind of figurines in different parts of the city and now tourists and locals enjoy them. As a fan of rail transport, I evidently like the fact that they preserved these old tram tracks in different places of the city, because their tram is unique just by the fact that the gauge of the tracks is different from the rest of the country. It definitely would be better if trams separated in this area. Seems to be a local flea market where people sell different kind of stuff. Simple but nice German architecture of the early 20th century. What differs these houses from the rest ones in Russia is tile roof. It's very widespread in Europe that mansards are inhabited, but pretty unusual for the mainland of Russia. Usually between upper floor of the building and its roof there is just empty space, but